Welcome all. Before we begin tonight, make sure you turn on the fireplace and get your warm drinks flowing, as we are in for literally the most chilled podcast as we talk snow horrors in the Night of the Flicks. Your hosts, as usual, we got the lad whose editing is so damn cold it makes Jack Frost shiver. It's Mr. Deadpan himself. It's our boy Will. How are you, Will?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good, good. Let's avalanche down to our next guy, and he lives by one rule and one motto, and that's don't eat yellow snow. That's right, it's Ollie. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm good. Yeah, I've made that mistake quite a few times, to be fair, eating yellow
Yeah,
snow.
eating yellow snow. I try to avoid it.
That's the only thing Ollie lives by. That's
And most lastly, and guaranteed to be the biggest mouth you will hear all week, it's me, it's Shin. But I do sense a blizzard coming, so without any further ado, let's get on with our featured presentation. How is everybody doing?
yeah,
Episode 3.
very good. Ready to analyze these films.
We've made it big time now, 3 episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
ball is
it's going to be an
rolling.
interesting episode.
So I thought what we'd do today is obviously we've always had a little bit of an icebreaker. I haven't really planned anything this week. So what I thought we'd do is have a little bit of a just a 5-10 minute discussion of like something that we've watched or played or something that we've done in the last couple of weeks, because it has been a little bit longer, obviously the gap between this one and episode 2. Will, do you want to start us off? Have you watched or played any games or watched any movies recently?
Not really watched too many films other than the ones we choose for the podcast. Been I kind of have like hyper focuses, so at the minute it's like Cars. So I watched Initial D, which is based off like an anime. Been playing Need for Speed, so I'm just like fully in that zone at the minute.
You're in a Need for Speed sort of mood.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. How about yourself, Ollie? You been watching? You watched any movies or played any games?
I've been watching Blue Eyed Samurai on Netflix, and I have to say I'm not an anime guy. You know this. I
Yeah.
don't go for animes, but this is one of the best things I have seen in a long, long time. It's fantastic.
Oh wow. Is it like it's violent, isn't it? It's like it's
Oh,
not like yeah.
it's very 18. It's very adult. It's violent, sex, nudity. The story is fantastic. It's got a fantastic leading lady in it. She's not like a Mary Sue either. It's just such a really well written show, and I can't wait for season 2 to drop.
Nice, nice. Actually, so I might actually give that one a go then.
Oh, you got it, PJ. You'll love it.
And
Is it American or is it like where was it made? Is it a Japanese film or well TV show?
Judging by the writers, I think it's Western
Okay,
made.
yeah. Oh, okay. That does sound pretty good actually.
I think season two's already been like confirmed, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It ends on a cliffhanger, and it's yeah, very yeah. But one of the best things I've seen in ages. Shin, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. So I've seen like I can't remember who it was. There was a YouTuber that did a bit of a review on it, and I must admit it did sound interesting. And if you're enjoying it as well,
Yeah, it's one of those shows. Like I'm not an anime guy, but this is the animation is beautiful. The violence, um, the the adult themes. It's fantastic.
nice, nice. Okay, what about, I've been watching quite a few films, but I don't really want to talk about too much of them because I'm doing a YouTube video on those soon. But I have just completed a game today, and it's a horror game, so it does kind of fit the themes of the podcast. But it was called Elisa. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that one.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really good. It was like it's like I say it's modern. I think it's quite old now, but it's only just come on PlayStation. But it's like supposed to like be like reminiscent to like the old Resident Evil 1 PS1 like survival horror games. Like even in like the graphics and stuff, it looks like a PS1 game.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely brilliant game. Takes about 8 hours to complete. Really good game. I recommend it if you like your old school survival horror games.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was. It was really, really, really good.
Is it one with like fixed cameras where you go? Like...
Yeah. Has like your fixed cameras, tank controls. You like obviously when you aim your gun, you can't move or anything like that. Really,
Yeah.
but it was loads of puzzles in it, and yeah, really good game. Really good.
Nice.
Yeah, and terrible voice acting, so it's perfect. Yeah, well, that's the little icebreaker done. Do you guys want to get on with the main films?
Yeah, I'm ready. I believe.
You ready, Ollie?
I think I got my name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got my notes.
Well, we want to start with the earliest first, as we have done recently. So I say we stick with that trend. And the first movie was my pick, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will read the incredible synopsis on IMDb. So The Snowman, 1968. The lives of a master sculptor and his young apprentice has changed forever when they meet an evil witch during a snowstorm. Nice. I never actually thought of her as a witch. I've never even thought of that word with this until I've just read that then.
Yeah. Well, no, it's based on like an actual like Japanese yokai folklore thing.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, I picked this film because I saw some still images, and I thought, oh, that looks like quite like intense. That looks pretty creepy. But I didn't realise going into it that it was actually it was Dai. I think I've said that. I probably butchered that name. Dai, who make some of my all-time favorite movies like Gamera. They did the Yokai set. They did the Daimajin, which are all films that I absolutely love and watch all the time. So I was kind of surprised
a
when
reason why you were drawn to it.
Yeah. Like I didn't even realize it was a yokai. Like, and until like when I put the movie on, I saw the Dai logo come up, and I went, "Oh, I did not know that." And then when I googled it and actually did a little bit of research into it, I was like, "Oh, I didn't know it was like yokai and things." So I went from being relatively excited anyway to being really excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did your guys sort of initial reactions to this then, Ollie? What did you think?
So initially, obviously didn't watch a trailer. I just went straight into the movie. It was nothing what I expected it to be. I thought it was just going to be like a straight up, say, 1960s, late 1960s horror movie, but it's something completely else. It's more of a horror, but with a lot of romance in it.
Yeah.
And it was completely not what I expected, but I was enthralled watching this film. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off with like the main guy. I'm not going to try and remember his name. Yosaku. Is that correct? That's
Yeah.
I might have said it wrong. Yosaku, and he's got his master, and they've obviously just come in from like a blizzard, getting some shelter. When kind of out the blue, the snow woman comes in, just kills the master, and then I think she kind of falls in love with him. I think that's what I took from it. Like she spared his life and then went to like find him. You know what I mean?
From what I understood, she was like kind of mesmerized by how like handsome he was, and like wanted to maybe see what human life would be like.
Yeah, and initially, when I first saw that scene, I thought she is like such a scary looking woman. Like, you know, like the way for me, like one of the scariest things for me, like the scariest movie of all time for me is The Grudge. And so anything with like, you know, the pale face, black hair style of horror, like it automatically gets me. And with her like yellow eyes and the way like she gives that like corner look, you know, when he's like when she's looking at the corpse and then she looks at him, it kind of did like give me a bit of a shiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, you know, when her like eyes go like that kind of goldeny color, it's
Yeah,
creepy.
yeah. Well, what's your sort of initial thoughts on this?
Um, well, yeah, I went in pretty much without watching anything either, other than just having a quick look on like Google. Um, and like you said, it's I thought maybe it'd be more horror, but it's actually like it's more of like a drama with like slight horror elements in there. Um, but yeah, it was a really good film and really a really picturesque kind of dreamy type feel to it. Don't know if you
Yeah,
guys felt like
yeah,
that.
absolutely, yes. I think I really think that this was. I think if I was to describe it in what like not even a horror, I think it's a tragic tale. It's like reminds me of like a you know how you would describe Romeo and Juliet sort of, you know,
Yeah.
the story of that.
Mm.
It's really just like a tragic tale of like and I'll just sort of say my initial thoughts on it before we sort of go through the film a bit more, but like I loved it. I when it ended, I was like had like goosebumps. I was like, this film was like incredible. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit higher, but like yeah, I absolutely adored this film. I thought it was
Oh no,
fantastic.
no! It's as soon as I finished watching it, I was, especially with the ending and the way it ends, and the use of like lighting and
Yeah,
editing throughout the movie from 1968 was fantastic. The way they light her when she's in like Snow Woman mode, it was so creepily done. But it was such a tragic story that by the end, I was gutted of the way it ended. But
Mm.
yeah,
I came away thinking, wow, what a fantastic movie! A movie I've never even heard of, and it was one of the best films I've so far seen this year,
yeah,
easily up there.
yeah. I mean, like, sorry, Will.
That's right. I was just gonna say like a key point I'd put down, even just in like the intro part, like you said with the him and his master, like the lighting and the shadows is like it's done fairly simple, but it's so effective, and it was like a really major part of the film and what made it good.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
literally just light her face, and everything else is dark around her,
Yeah.
it's a great effect.
yeah. I think for me, like, I can't think. I think I put this in my review on Letterbox. I can't think of anything that was not executed really well, other than the kid acting. That
Oh,
was tragic.
it was. I didn't mind the acting. It was his cry. You know, the end. Oh, his
Yeah,
crying. His crying started to do my head in. it
yeah,
it
yeah.
was a
I
bit
mean,
much.
I think like when it comes to like the Gamera movies, which is the same company, it's like the worst thing about those films. Like I love those films to pieces, but the kids are the most annoying things in the world. And like I'm like, you can tell this is the same company. It's probably the same kid actor who's popping up in it. I don't know that. I'm just guessing, but like he's so annoying. I'm just like, shut up.
I think the
But
only thing that I've maybe I didn't not like, but a lot of scenes. There was lots of like I don't know theater esque like acting, very quiet, a little bit over the top, like a little bit over dramatic. Um, like a real, I guess like a stage performance. Um, it didn't take away from the film, but I think that was just like part of the time period that it was made
yeah,
in.
yeah. I think a lot of movies, I think in the same sort of period, in sort of in like the Japan time, especially like over in Japan and things. I do think a lot of the movies are similar in like the way that they sort of go about it. You know, they are. very like over dramatic, ain't they, and things.
Mm.
So I think. Anyway, I'm trying to think of. So the film, obviously, you have the start where he but she makes him promise that he will never speak about it because if he does, she will kill him.
Yeah.
That's the only sort of way that she will let him live. So he obviously then spends a long time not talking about it. Then he meets this girl who, at first, I was like, "That's definitely her, isn't it? Like that's the
Yeah,
Snow
that's
Woman."
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but it weren't until like about 15, 20 minutes later that you actually realise, like it confirms, yes, this
Yeah.
is the Snow Woman. Which I was glad that they announced that was the Snow Woman earlier, instead of it being like the end twist, because I think it would have been a bit obvious, you know. So
Mm.
I was quite glad that they were able to sort of show that relatively quickly. And then obviously then they're just kind of living together. Then they're going out with each other. He doesn't know that she's the Snow Woman, obviously, and they kind of like get married and all of that. And I just think it's just it's a really, I say nice like story because I think up to obviously spoilers, but up towards the end, it's just really quite nice, you know, because they end up having a kid and like it's really really nice. But then you've obviously got like the guy, the bailiff guy. I don't know what his, can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Soju or whatever. I probably said that wrong. Is it him? I think it might be. I might have got the wrong guy, but obviously he's an absolute bastard, and I hated his character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a lot of the film, it is basically a romantic drama piece.
Mm.
But then obviously with the whole like folk tale and like tragedy that happens at the end. But like that whole like probably 40 minutes in the middle is just like it's like a family rom-com, not rom-com, romance like drama film. Like there's not really too much to it. He's working away at his job. They have a kid. And it's all like quite nice until obviously
Yeah.
things take a turn.
Yeah, it's one of those where the movie is only 80 minutes long, so it is a relatively short movie. But there's not a lot of conflict throughout, other than the bailiff that really wants to be with Yuki.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you've got Yusaku, who's trying to create his statue, and now the bailiffs hired another chap to try and like another master sculptor to sculpt this statue just because he wants Yosaku's wife so badly. So it is like there's no much conflict throughout, but it's still riveting watching the movie.
Yeah, I think like the middle part, there is not a lot happens, but I never felt really very bored. I never,
It's
not
never
once felt,
boring.
Mm.
yeah. And then obviously things start to really like it sort of takes a turn towards the end of the film when they go obviously back to the spiritual woman, and then the guy the bad guy finally decides that he's gonna get this woman no matter what, and then he traps her and obviously tries to have his way with her, and then that's when she kills him, which is an amazing scene as well. I think
Such a great scene.
when she just turns, like when like he's like trying to do what he needs to do, and then she just turns like that into the Snow Woman and just freezes. It kills him and his guards, doesn't it? I think it
Yeah.
kills a bunch of them, and then that's kind of when the film starts going downhill. Not
Yeah.
in the story, because then obviously he's been murdered, and uh, the people, some like the lady knows it was Yuki, the Snow Woman, who did it, and then that's when the most tragic moment happens in the film that literally made I gasped when I watched this bit. But it's when he tells her about the Snow Woman,
Yeah.
and she turns around and she's like, "Why have you done that? Like, why have you told me this?" And she's like, "You were the only person I would give to give me human feelings, like I." And then he's kind of ruined it all, and now she has to kill him. And I was like, oh no, this is. I was like, my heart broke at that point. I was devastated.
I'm surprised like he never clicked though. Like just a bit of eyeliner is just eyeliner and different like eye contacts, and that's basically what he saw in his, that tragic incident that happened between him and his master,
Yeah,
like literally weeks before seeing this lady popping up.
I kind of feel like I have to. That was the one moment I had to sort of disbelieve. You know what I mean? Like I was like, why does he not recognize her? But then I kind of had to just kind of go, okay, whatever, I'd accept that. That was one moment that kind of was
Yeah.
like, but I did think that a few times because I was like, it clearly looked like her, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna. And it's not until 5 years or 5 or 6 years later, or however long it's been, that he goes, "You look like her."
I, some of my favorite scenes was when they go to like the the prayer group, and like you said, that lady's there, like flicking the water, and then she senses like the snow woman, and it's so like tense, like all the close-ups, and then she like flicks the boiling water in her direction,
Yeah,
um, and that's when you like begin to know like, this isn't gonna end well for these guys. But then that led to like a little bit of a weird one. So she's got she's got a burn scar from
yeah,
from when the lady previously found her, which was years ago apparently. Um,
yeah,
but how? But and then so um, so Yuki mentions that to her husband, and he's like, "Oh, where's that from? Like, he's never seen this burn scar before? They've been together like years, and he's
yeah.
never seen it."
I did also think of that as well. Like, and I was because he was like, she was like, weren't she like trying to get her to show her? And
Yeah,
he was like, no, get out of here.
yeah,
But surely he would know, like, if she has a scar on her, on
yeah.
her.
Because he questions her, a burn scar. What are you on about? And then they show it, and I'm like, oh, how would you never seen that?
I think it would have been better if she would have shown it and there weren't a scar there.
Mm,
Like in Ravenous, sort of, like there wasn't a scar on all along. Like maybe she healed it or like did some of her snow magic or something. But like, yeah, but to the way they did it was kind of like he would know if she's got scars on her shoulder. But that's pretty much like obviously then the ending of the film is she goes to kill him. The kid starts crying really obnoxiously,
yeah.
and she's like, "I'm out of here. I can't handle that." No, I'm joking. But no, I must admit, when the kid looked at her, I was like,
Yeah,
is she gonna have to kill her kid as well? And I kind of think she would have had to if she didn't leave. And I think that was like when she was like, "Okay, I've got to do one. I've got to go." Like
yeah.
because I
That
think she would have had to kill a kid and him.
and she couldn't like bear doing that.
Yeah, because I think as the film, I don't think at the start of the film she has any feelings because she just goes in there and brutally kills the master.
Yeah,
And like it wasn't until she sees him that she's a little bit mesmerized. But I think as the film goes on, obviously that's when she has these human feelings and she almost becomes human. And then I think the reason that's how she doesn't kill her because she has like she can't do it, so she just leaves. And I don't know what like. I'm not sure if she's just gonna go be the Snow Woman again, or I don't quite know what's happened after the movie with her. But
mm,
it was still just such a like it was such a good ending, but it was also quite tragic. And
Well, the Japanese fairy tale it's based on is that the Snow Woman was a princess, um, and she comes to Earth with the snow because she's bored of her life, basically on the moon or in space. Um, so I guess she just goes back to doing that. Really, she's just
yeah,
traveling the snowy landscapes.
yeah. Because I believe when he says like, "Oh, you you look like the Snow Woman, she mentions that like because of him, she's been able to experience feelings as a human would in
Yeah,
a
she
human
says
life.
human feelings, which
Yeah.
makes me go, she's not human then, you know, like, well, she's obviously not human, but she's like not of this world sort
Yeah.
of thing, you know, and
I believe in the folk tale as well. The Snow Woman like goes about her business and stuff, but if a man comes across her like wandering in the snow, and they like basically look at each other like if they've clocked eyes, then she kind of kills him. But what I didn't understand at the beginning of the film, the master was just fast asleep. He never looks at her, and obviously she comes into the room, and the snow like takes up the room and like basically freezes him to death. But I was like, what did he do?
yeah, I mean, I think the fact that I don't know the law or the
Yeah.
story or anything like that. Like for me, that didn't really bother me because I didn't know. I just thought she was just like somebody who kills people who are like unfortunate enough to come across her, you know. So
But yeah, I'm just like nitpicking. It was still a great film.
Yeah.
because I know.
If I was,
Sorry, carry on.
sorry, if I was to nitpick anything, there's a scene where the shaman comes to the house to accuse her of being the Snow Woman, and at the time, Yusaku, who's sculpting the statue, he's really struggling for inspiration on the statue's face. So yeah, the shaman comes to the house and gives the Snow Woman a bit of a beating, like a bit of a whipping. And it's not like, oh, are you okay? You're okay. He goes, oh, watching you get whipped, your face has given me inspiration for my sculpture, and that's it. Then he just goes back to chiseling away at his sculpture, even though he's just watched his wife take a beating.
She proper starts whipping, don't she?
Yeah, I think
Oh yeah,
she does that, and then he like shoos her out the house, and then he says like, "Oh, I'll never let anyone like hurt you," but he just did. He's
Yeah.
getting washed.
Yeah.
but other than that, I couldn't find much fault with this movie. I loved it. I genuinely loved it. It's, the story just being so tragic, it was just fascinating to watch.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It makes me want to watch because there's other like versions of the Snow Woman.
Yeah,
I think most famously is in. I'm probably going to say the name wrong, but I've always called it Quiden,
Yeah,
which is the three movies in one. And one of the movies is the Snow Woman tale, and then obviously I've seen, as I've like done a little bit of research, I've seen there was like one in the 2000s and one in the late 90s or something like that as well. So I've become quite interested in wanting to like go and find them and check them out.
yeah. I want to watch Quiden because it's like a short story of this, and this is like basically
Yeah,
a full expansion on the story. But I've heard people really like the Quiden version. It's a little bit more surreal and dreamlike.
yeah.
So yeah, that's made me very interested in watching that.
I was going to say short movies, but I think Quiden's like 3.5 hours
Oh yeah,
long. So
that's yeah.
I've got it. I can lend it you on DVD. I've got it. I just think it's opened me up to wanting to check out more of these. Does anybody have anything else they want to add, or do you want to go into ratings?
I had one more nitpick. That's
What?
a lot of my notes are just nitpicking basically, but it is
Yeah.
like so. One of the people, it might have been one of the bailiffs, were talking about like the wood, and obviously Yosaku's taking his time making it, and he's like, "Oh, what's taking him so long?" And he's like, "Oh, I've heard the material has to take 5 years to dry."
Yeah.
But they leave the log outside. The log's outside for 5 years. So how's it gonna dry?
They should have just like, didn't they? They should have just put it on the radiator.
But yeah, that made me giggle a bit.
I did. I must admit, I didn't know. I didn't even think about it being outside, but I did laugh when it said it takes 5 years to dry. I was like, really? I also, we haven't even really mentioned, the mum. When she gets like whipped to death. There's a lot. The whipping in this is awful. Is it? I think she's the mum. She's ill, and then
Hmm.
she gets whipped, and then dies, and then obviously she says, "Can you marry my son?" Which I also laughed at a little
Yeah,
bit. I
that's a
was
very
like,
strange
"Yeah, like
last
you're just gonna just
request.
marry someone that you've only known for like 1 day or 2 days or something like that." Like just, but that bit made me like it was quite sad, like what when that she dies. But then I
Mm.
was a little bit like, that's a bit of a weird way of proposing. And we haven't even mentioned about the kid that was sick. When she ends up being the snow woman and like secretly being the snow woman to cure the kid
Yeah.
and stuff. That was quite a good scene, which I quite enjoyed. Because she's kind of, I think she must get ill while being the snow woman, maybe because she was like, I don't know, but she was getting sick
Seems to like
helping.
drain her, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But you got anything else to add, Ollie?
Um, no, pretty much.
No.
No, I think I've said it was because I initially thought this would be just because reading the synopsis, being set in a cabin, I thought, oh, it's just going to be just a cabin sort of horror movie, but it just was completely something else. And it was just yeah, it was just a tragic romance with just a
Yeah,
slight hint of horror.
I agree. I do agree, but I don't think that's not an insult or by any. I think
No,
that's just
not at all.
no. Okay, well, do you want to? I'll go with the first rating.
Yeah.
Well, as it finished, I straight away went 4.5 stars out of 5. And the only reason why I think I went with that is because I don't like if a film's gonna get 5 stars, I need to watch it a few times and let it. But like, yeah, 4.5 for a first watch. I don't do that too often. So like, it was a very special film, and I want to watch it again. And I think if the more I watch it, can you only imagine it's gonna get. I'm gonna get more impressed with it. I think. So for me, it was an incredible film. 4.5 stars out of 5. Who wants to go
Nice.
next?
Very fair. I'll go. Um, I may have been a little bit more critical, I think. Um, but definitely one I would come back and watch again and see how I felt on a second watch. Because it's such a pretty film to watch as well.
Oh, it is. Ain't it? Yes.
So yeah, I can imagine watching this on like really cold, snowy, like winter night and putting on some candles and watching this film. That'd be sick. But yeah, I gave it 3.5 out of 5. I think maybe just the overacting took me out a few times. But yeah, still a great film. It was between like 3.5, 4 stars for me. But
Yeah.
maybe a second watch is needed.
Lovely. Ollie?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 4.5 stars as well,
Nice.
PJ. This I genuinely love this film. Like I said, completely not what I was expecting. But just a sad, tragic romance movie that's not usually my bag, but I was invested throughout the whole 80 minutes. The editing was fantastic, the lighting, the use of shadows. It was just a genuinely beautiful movie to watch.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so far up there with maybe the best film we've probably watched for the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Maybe other
Yeah,
than maybe for me it's maybe Demons, but only because I've watched that like 100 times. So, but but yeah, I think yeah, incredible.
I think
Yeah,
I'm leaving a bit of room as well for Quiden because I do really want to watch that, and I've heard people like that maybe even more so than this film, despite this film being great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to watch that. Maybe we can talk about that on the podcast as well.
I'd be up for that, definitely. Lovely. Well, that is the Snow Woman. It's on IMDb. It says the Woman of the Snow. So I don't really know what it's really called, but yeah, 1968, The Snow Woman, The Woman in the Snow, whatever you want to call it. Next film would be Ravenous, wouldn't it? If we're going by release date.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was my pick.
Nice.
Ravenous from 1999, directed by Antonia Bird, our first female director for the podcast. I was going to write the synopsis from IMDb and Letterboxd, but both seem to be pretty wrong. That's not actually how the film goes. So basically, I'll do a quick rundown. So Guy Pearce is a captain in the U.S. Army during the Mexican-U.S. War, and he's basically a coward, so gets transferred to a fort in the snowy California wastes. Comes across one night. Robert Carlyle just appears out of nowhere and says, "Oh, I've been held up in this cave. You need to go back and help." But more dark, sinister things come afoot with Robert Carlyle's character, Colonel Ives. So I'll leave it there so we can discuss more of the story while we chat.
They should get you to write the synopsises on IMDb because I've
Have
literally just
you read
read the
it?
one on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely wrong. Same with Letterboxd. The one on Letterboxd is completely wrong as well. Letterboxd says, upon receiving reports of missing persons at Fort Spencer, that he doesn't. He gets transferred there because he was a coward. So yeah, they're both kind of wrong.
That is, yeah. I thought IMDb's were wrong, but that Letterbox one's really
Their
wrong.
Letterboxd really
It's
wrong.
literally like it's literally wrong. Like it's not even like a bit brief or something. It's literally wrong.
But yeah, Ravenous, 1999. My mum and dad first rented this for me from Blockbuster when it first came out. The original director was a man, but he was sacked, and Robert Carlyle, who had worked with Antonia Bird on a few other movies, kind of put her name forward, and yeah, she took over the reins.
Okay, lovely. Ollie, what's your sort of initial thoughts then?
So, I love the concept of this movie. You know, top of my head, this is a horror western cannibal Wendigo movie. That's pretty unique in concept. I don't know if anyone can name any other movies like that other than say like Bone Tomahawk, which is a western cannibal movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's got a pretty big cast as well. Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, Jeffrey Jones, even David Arquette. Is in it, especially as he was relatively big in the 90s. But the movie is like a blend of horror and a little bit of black comedy.
yeah. It had a tonal issue, I do think.
It
Yeah.
did. It seriously had a real tonal issue, especially choices of music. Like the initial theme song is a really creepy, haunting song that kind of fits that the snowy western wilderness. But then all of a sudden, during a chase scene with Robert Carlyle chasing this private through the woods, it goes into some crazy hillbilly music,
Yeah,
which I don't know if anyone noticed. I was like, oh my god,
it did.
where the hell has this come from? So yeah, it was a few poor choices of music, but I initially thought the first half of this movie, the concept, the setup, where the story was going was fantastic. I was completely invested. It's the second half where Guy Pearce kind of gets back to the fort after being injured in the woods, where it kind of falls apart towards the end.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
That is interesting because I know me and Will, we spoke very very briefly, didn't we? And
Yeah.
I said that I preferred the second half than the first half, which is quite interesting that we have
That is
different.
interesting.
Yeah, we both have sort of different. Because I was watching this and I think about when he was like he fell and he was like in the little cavern and just
Yeah.
before he like when he falls and hurts his leg
Yeah.
and he's in the little hole. I think I messaged. I can't remember if I messaged the group or if I just messaged you, Will.
Yeah, you did.
And I think
Yeah.
I said, when does this film get boring? You say because like I'm bored already. Like, and I was like, oh no. But I will say, the second half, it kind of brought me back into it a little bit. I was like, it's not too bad now.
What point
Yeah.
in the film were you like, what like drew you back in? What
I
point?
think it was when Robert Carlyle came back. It's like when he walks in as the general.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, okay, and then I quite enjoyed it, and I will say like the final fight was not the greatest, but like it was. I don't want to go to the end just yet, anyway. But like, I thought the second half was. I thought it brought me back in a little bit, and I enjoyed bits of the first half. I liked the story of him being a coward, and all that. I liked the fact that he just lay on the ground and. But then I was just a little bit like when they were like going on the little adventure trying to find this old cave and stuff. I weren't interested. I weren't. I was thinking I don't like this film. I was thinking like I was on like 2 stars sort of thing. But as the film went on, it was slowly improving.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a certainly well acted movie. Guy Pearce doesn't have that many lines throughout the movie,
Yeah,
which is
I was gonna bring
play
that
it
up.
quite
He
quiet.
doesn't say anything for the first like 20 minutes of the film.
No, he is. He's so silent. But then Robert Carlyle, I think, gives a great performance as a complete psychopath. But then Jeffrey Jones, which obviously there's a bit of controversy surrounding Jeffrey Jones, which I didn't actually know before picking this movie, so I was quite shocked when I did some further reading. But not going to say I forgive. Like I like what Jeffrey Jones has done in his private life, but I do like his performance in this movie.
Yeah, you have to separate the artist a little bit from the
Exactly.
movie, and like I think like his performance is good. I think he is good in it, but yeah, obviously he himself not good. But
No,
yeah,
but it's just the concept. The whole Wendigo. You feast on human flesh, and you basically you don't want to eat anything else. Um, you can't satiate your hunger for anything other than flesh, and there is no going back. And it's something they kind of lightly touch on the movie, but they don't go full into it. So I quite like that concept.
yeah. No, I quite like the concept, and I like I feel like I might be misunderstanding the film a tad because I do think, and after reading some reviews afterwards, the one thing that I noticed a lot of people saying is people saying it's a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas I never really like found it to be a comedy,
Yeah.
except for the music choice. But I was more like
They sh-
laughing at it, like that didn't make you know what I
I think
mean?
if they wanted to go with that, they either needed to lean into it more or just completely leave it out. They kind of like tiptoed into the comedy aspect.
Yeah, I think the tension side and the actual like dark side, like that the serious side didn't really capture me. And if they were trying to get this sort of dark comedy, that bit also didn't really capture me. So not none of it really worked for me. Like over as an overall film, it didn't really work. But there were moments. Like, I think the acting's very very good.
Yeah,
Like yeah,
I think Robert Carlyle in particular did like fantastic as well. The way he was able to switch between like the first half, he's kind of like the innocent, the one everyone's kind of like protecting, and then he like switches into this like sadistic kind of killer. I thought it was really, really good.
That scene when they get to the cave and like they go into the cave, and then as they're realizing it's a trap, you got Carlisle's character. I can't remember his name, and he starts going a bit crazy, and he starts digging into the set of the ground. Oh, I thought that was pretty well done.
See, that's after that point. So like, I enjoyed the first half more. I think because once everyone's kind of, Robert Carlyle's told his story, and you have all these different characters. You got like the captain. You've got like the drunk. You've got like action man hero. You've got your native, and all these very individual characters coming together, and they're like, okay, we need to, like basically do a rescue mission to see where these other two guys are at, and then obviously the twist happens, and Robert Carlyle's character is the cannibal killer. Like that point in the film was probably my favorite. That kind of like building up of tension, this little like journey that they're going on, and then once they get back to the camp, well, Captain John Boyd gets back to the camp and realizes that is it Colonel Ives? I think that's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, Robert. Yeah, Colonel Ives, Robert Carlyle. Yeah.
And then he's just there, like as if nothing happened. I was like, oh, okay, like another bit of a twist, and everyone's just disregarding whatever John Boyd says. He's like, oh, you're just being silly. You just need to get some rest. And then after that, it just kind of like fizzled out for me. Kind of got a little bit stale. And then even to like the ending where they kind of have their kind of like one-on-one fight, that was really, really underwhelming.
It was. But I did some. I watched the special features on the DVD, and the director, Antonia Bird, basically said we just ran out of money by the time we got to that end fight scene. We had no fake blood left.
I did see
and
they
there
ran
was
out of
no
blood.
money. Yeah, there just wasn't enough money left to kind of redo it or make it better, so they had to just shoot it as it went.
Right.
So it was a little bit. Yeah, it's a bit of an underwhelming ending.
There's a lot of just like shoving and pushing and
Yeah, it's it's a very gory movie. It certainly earns its 18 certificate. You do see people getting gutted and stabbed. You know, especially the first scene where Guy Pearce is sat down at that meal with all these other commanders, and they're all eating that steak, and it's genuinely disgusting to watch.
Yeah, it's sloppy
It's sloppy and it's so bloody, and it just looks vile. Then it's crazy to think because Guy Pearce is actually vegetarian, and he had to eat a ton of meat for this movie, and after every shot he'd have to spit it out.
Yeah. I think
Didn't know that.
another thing with like the kind of grotesqueness was the sound design, which was really good, but really grotesque and pulpy and gurgly and gross, really gross.
Even the blood itself was like very thick, like dark. The blood stood out a lot. Like when it's bleeding out of his mouth and stuff. It's like it was very thick, and yeah, it was. I do think that the gore was pretty good. One thing that made me laugh though really a lot was all the way through the movie. I'm like, so the three people on the cover is, but David Arquette's one of the guys on the cover. So I was like, oh, he's obviously going to be a big part then. Like I thought maybe the second half was going to be a big part, and then literally he's the first one to die. And I was like, David Arquette's been in this film for like he's probably like 10 minutes altogether, and he's on the cover.
Oh no, they did have a load of scenes shot with him, but they all just got cut in editing. Because there's supposed to be scenes of him building Christmas trees, getting high, having fun, blah blah blah. But all those extra scenes just got cut. So he's got a little for David Arquette in the 90s was quite big-ish. You
Yeah,
know,
I think
he
it
was
might be
Yeah,
a bit of
yeah.
a name pull as well.
CW,
Yeah,
wasn't he? Like being champion at WCW for a bit. Yeah, he's not in it. It really. It is more of a Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, Jeffrey Jones sort of movie
yeah,
where they all play off each other.
yeah. Definitely. See, the thing that I quite liked about the second half for me is I kind of felt like it was. I like the idea of like he's obviously they think that he's the killer. You know, Guy Pearce's character's the killer, and it's very like it feels more like a horror film. The
Yeah,
second half, like he's just going around secretly killing them off, uh, and that's why I quite enjoyed that second half because it was kind of like he's tied up, but he's not the killer. So, and we know, but everyone else around doesn't know. So, and I think that's why I found it quite interesting. And I think with the end fight, as much as I agree that it is a little bit underwhelming, I also kind of the one thing that I was thinking while watching it was like it feels very real. Like like as much
Yeah,
as they're both Wendigos fighting, but it weren't like there weren't no spin kicks or sword. It was just like two guys that can't really die, or they can, but they're very hard to kill, just beating each other and stabbing each other, and like it felt, and they both seemed tired towards the end. And I get that it kind of it's not the most exciting action, but I weren't watching it thinking, well, this is a terrible, boring fight. I was like, it just seemed like
like yeah,
if
it
you
could
were
be a
watching
real
it in real
situation.
life, that would be probably what it would be
Mm.
like. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I do like Robert Carlyle's like end sort of phrase that he gives to Guy Pearce, and when they're stuck in that bear trap together, and he's
yeah,
like, "If you die first, I'm gonna eat you." It's
yeah,
like that's that's a really good scene. Like just line delivery and everything. Um, but yeah, I got Robert Carlyle does he gives a fantastic performance through this movie.
yeah.
But yeah, just the endings. Just I just think down to budget reasons and maybe change of director. Who knows? Might just probably had a few issues.
Yeah, I went into it. And I shouldn't do this, and I try not to. But this is not a film that I would ever pick for myself. Like something about it, like I just was like, I don't think I would ever watch this movie. So I did go into it not expecting to hate it, but I was a bit like, okay, let's get this out of the way a little bit. And I will say,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So if I'm going to take anything away from it, is there were a lot more positives than I thought I would have by the end of it. I think the acting brilliant. I thought the performances were really, really good by most of the characters, and I like some of the twists. I like some of the plot. But overall, I don't think it's a film that I would ever really watch again.
yeah, completely agree. Yeah, like I said, I first saw this movie back in 1999 when I was 10. So I couldn't really remember. That's why I kind of wanted to rewatch it, especially we were doing like snow horror based movies. And
Yeah,
oh no, this just popped in my head because it's not a well known movie, um, especially because it's British funded as well, and British director. So yeah, I just thought I would see what you guys thought of a cannibal western movie.
yeah. I think the concept and like the genres it kind of pulls from is somewhat very, very different, but it didn't. Not all of it came across too great in the film, which is a little bit
It doesn't
disappointing.
stick its landing.
Yeah. I know you touched on the music being a bit strange, and I suppose
Yeah.
like a little bit offbeat, I guess. But I don't know if you saw that it was. I'm not too sure who Michael Nyman is, but it was Damon Albarn that did like
Oh wow.
the music.
Was it?
Yeah, and
Oh, I love the
I
music.
kind of like
No, I'm
heard
joking.
you. I feel like because I saw that at the start, I kind of heard that kind of influence a bit. Like one or two of the songs, I can imagine like gorillas just start coming in and
Yeah.
like But yeah, I thought
That's
that
really
was a strange
that's
little.
really interesting. I might actually have to go listen to the soundtrack now, but like, because yeah, I mean, Gorillaz is my favorite all-time favorite band, so like I do like me Damon Albarn, so that's interesting. I didn't even notice that. That is cool. Does anybody have anything else they want to add before we go to ratings, or do you think we're ready?
I think I've touched on everything I wanted to. To be fair.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, pretty much covered everything I wanted to with my notes.
Nice, nice. Do you want to go first then, Ollie?
Yeah, so I would rate this a generous 3.5, and I'm saying generous. I love the concept of the movie, cannibal absorbing people's strength from eating them, healing your wounds, but it's just a curse in the end. There's some fantastic performances, a pretty decent soundtrack. It just kind of falls apart. Um, for the last say 20-ish minutes, I would say. I know you Shin, you loved the second half, but yeah, I'd rate it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy watching it, but it wasn't. I certainly preferred the Snow Woman far more than this.
Yeah. Is
Lovely.
yeah.
Do you want me to go next?
Sure.
Yeah. When you say loved the second half, that's an overstatement.
Bit
Oh no,
generous.
overstatement. Excellent.
But I enjoyed the second half more than the first. I think overall, I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think I would probably watch this one again. Unless there's a I don't know. I don't think I would watch it again. So altogether, I came with 2.5 stars because I think my enjoyment of it was probably a lot more 2 stars, but I liked certain aspects and I respected certain aspects, which kind of bumps it up a little bit more. So I think 2.5 stars, middle of the road,
Yeah,
5 out of 10. That's where I'm sort of sitting.
Fair enough. Well, I come
fair
right
assessment.
right in the middle of you guys with three out of five. I think I took like the key things I enjoyed were like Robert Carlyle's performance, the snowy American foresty kind of vibe and setting of the film, the pulpy grotesque goriness. I enjoyed that, but yeah, just the second half was a little bit dull and disappointing for me. So yeah, I feel like 3.5 is quite fair for this film. But like you said, I don't think I'd probably watch this again. I feel like it's a one and done for me.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think that's,
Yeah,
like you say, I think we're all kind of at agreement. So it's funny that we've all got different ratings, but we all kind of like, I think we all have a similar opinion of the film. I think it was okay.
Yeah, I feel like
Some good things, some things that didn't work.
yeah,
It's interesting how we both have different things that didn't work, but we all have, I do find that quite interesting. Just a little like off-topic point. A 3 stars for you guys. What would you sort of consider that? Would you say that's a good movie if something gets 3 stars, or is that like average? Or
So 3 out of 5, which would be 6 out of 10. For me, that's like it's an alright film. It's good, but it's not great. It's not gonna be like my favorite film. Maybe not something I'd rewatch. Whereas, so you rated it 2.5, and that's like bang in the middle. And I feel
yeah,
like bang in the middle is where it's not bad enough to be a bad film. It's not good enough to be a good film. It was just meh. And
yeah.
I feel like this film wasn't meh. I feel like there was quite a few bits that I did enjoy. So that's probably why I just bumped up a little bit higher.
No, that's interesting. I think it helps the viewers and everything understand it as well a
Yeah.
little bit more. You know what I mean? What about you, Ollie? What sort of
yeah.
three
So
stars?
basically, echoing everything Will just said, 2.5, 3 star, I would say is sort of an average movie. So, like Will said, this isn't a great movie. It's not really a good movie. It's a decent flick. It's not bad. It's just decent. It's it's one of those. Yeah, you don't mind it. It's a one and done. You watch it once.
Yeah.
Glad you've kind of ticked it off a list.
Mm.
And just to see it. So that's why I kind of rate it 3.5 stars. I just thought the performances were really good, the music, the vistas and surroundings and setting were really good. That's why I kind of bumped it up that half a star.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think for me, like I've written on my letterboxd, I've got 3 stars is a good enjoyable movie, and 2 stars is like not quite there. I didn't like the film, so if it's like 2.5, it's pretty close to being a good movie, something that I would recommend. But like it's kind of that middle ground, so that's why. Yeah, 2.5 for me. I think if you go off like when you say 3 stars out of 5, 6 out of 10 I think sounds worse than 3 stars out of 5, you know,
Yeah,
because
that's
three
why I
stars out
was
of
like,
5 is quite positive, but 6 out of 10 isn't so positive, so it's quite weird when you think of it that way.
yeah, I think when we do like half, that kind of half star, it doesn't seem like much, but when you, so like,
Yeah,
so 3.5 out of 5, that's a 7 out of 10, and that in my eyes is like, it's a good film, but there must have been a few things I didn't like that made it like great
yeah,
or something like that. Whereas like you get to
yeah,
your 4 plus, and that's like that's a good film. Like,
yeah. I've said 4 stars is a great film
mm,
and 5 stars is a masterpiece. So like
yeah,
that 4.5 is like it was incredible, but like if it's 4.5, it's not quite a masterpiece. But usually for me, like a masterpiece is something like it's very rare that something will just get 5 stars first time. I think like I did give Godzilla minus one 5 stars straight away, but like I love watching Godzilla. I watched it that many times, and it doesn't feel like it was the first time I've seen it. So
mm,
like, but yeah, other than that, like yeah. So I think with Snow Woman getting 4.5 is pretty like big, like you know. So yeah, but that's good. I think that was just an interesting little tangent. Do we want to get into the third movie now?
yeah,
Again? Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the third and final movie of the night, which was your pick, Will.
yeah.
So do you want to lead us off on this one?
Okay. So yeah, the Devil's Pass, or it also goes by the Dyatlov Pass incident. So this synopsis on IMDb is: a group of students go to the location of the infamous Dyatlov Pass incident to make a documentary, but things take a turn for the worse as a secret of what happened there is revealed.
Yeah, that's not a bad synopsis.
It's one of
To the
the
point.
they're all very like they're all the same. What was people's first impressions?
Um, First impression, I thought, wow, director, this might be quite a good movie. Rennie Harlin. We've got Die Hard 2, Deep Blue Sea, Cliffhanger, guilty pleasure movie, Cutthroat Island. I do like Cutthroat Island, even though it killed a studio. So I was initially quite excited to see this, but with found footage, you do have that risk of it being either really good or really bad.
Yeah.
So that was my initial impression going in. How about yours, Shin?
Um, I I see. I'm not a super massive fan of the director anyway. I mean, like I've seen a couple of his films, but I'm not like I wouldn't ever say like I've seen Prison, and obviously Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff, but I'm not really like a big fan of Cliffhanger and stuff like that. But I will say the first, I was quite intrigued for the first 2 acts of the film.
Mm.
Like the first 2 acts of the film, I was like, yeah, this is not a bad film. But yeah, I think it takes like the last like
Yeah. The final act has
the final act
we'll get
takes
to.
some changes and turns, which we'll get to, which there were some good and bad in there. But I think like overall, it did have that sort of Blair Witch sort of feel to it, like the documentary, the fake documentary thing, and like the interviews. and you know what? I weren't hating my time with it. So yeah, I think overall, like the first, my initial reactions were okay. This is go. I wasn't really that excited. I didn't know much about it, but then as it started, I was interested in it. But then obviously we'll talk about the rest of the movie. I think when we get there. What about yourself, Will?
Um, yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Like the first two acts, I was quite intrigued. I think so. So the starts off with a lot of like TV news lines, that kind of thing,
Yeah,
and I thought it wasn't bad. I feel like a lot of films do that kind of fake TV newsline kind of thing, and it's just cheesy. But I didn't think it was like too bad, so I was like, okay. Um, and then you're kind of introduced to the documentary that these students are making, and you're introduced to all these characters. And at first, I found the characters a bit, like that. Their acting was a bit meh. But
yeah,
I think once they actually uh go to Russia, and things start seeming a little spooky. The webbers get into them, and I was like, okay, no, this is like I'm like really intrigued now. And some of the characters I did actually find genuinely funny. There's some good, funny dialogue moments, some awkwardness, like real human awkwardness, that I quite enjoyed in the film.
yeah. I think I was more like intrigued in it, like as if it was a documentary. Like I was more like curious to know like the story of the actual,
Mm.
like what actually happened. Like like I don't. I think like as a film, like you say, the acting I didn't think was too great. I didn't like the characters much. But I was intrigued with the story. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to know what happened, and there's little things throughout the film, like obviously because we watched this one together, like me and Will, we watched it with, and the person that we were watching it with saw something in the background, and it was like we ended up like rewinding it. I think we rewinded it,
Yeah,
didn't we?
yeah, we did. Because
And trying to see what happened and stuff. And I found that really, I liked that quite a lot.
there's the subtle little like spooky moments. Um, yeah, so like when they're in Russia and there's the guy in the mental hospital and he's holding up the sign and he gets like dragged away, and that's when you're kind of like
Yeah.
okay, something's wrong. No one wants to talk about what's happened. And then yeah, those subtle little creatures that run across in the background, that was good.
Yeah. Yeah. You really are left knowing nothing for the first like hour of the movie. Like, and it is, but there's like, they leave little hints, like you get like that tongue that's in the, is it tongue or something that's in the little box? And there's the footstep thing where it's almost like, how is the footsteps just like randomly there? Like, did someone like
Yeah.
fly there or something? Like, there's no possible way that could have happened. And
I liked how they were blaming each other for that, but
yeah,
how were they supposed to make perfectly big footprints in the snow when it's like minus God knows what? And like,
yeah,
oh, it must have been you. Stop pranking us. It's like, how?
yeah. But it's
Well,
like, how would have? Sorry, carry on, Ali.
so I was just going to say, it's just the caliber of acting that they had. It wasn't actually a pretty much all UK cast, other than JP Luke Albright, who was US. But their previous work is Emmerdale, Hollyoaks, Holby City,
Oh,
basically.
really?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't
every
look too much
single
into
one.
that.
Yeah, they're not exactly up there. You had like Denise, the girl who gets swept away in the avalanche. That's Gemma Atkinson. But the most famous thing she's done is been on Strictly Come Dancing.
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah. I think what they do is, I think because he's obviously quite a well-known director. He's worked with some massive stars, and he's even directing the new Strangers series or movies that's coming out, like I think it's like chapter 1 to 3.
Yeah, chapter 1. Yeah.
And you've got so he's worked with some big names. Obviously, he is a big name, kind of like like he's. So I think he used these actors on purpose because I think when you watch a found footage film and you watch like and you've seen this like it's trying to be a real documentary, but it's obviously fake. I
Yeah.
think having these sort of unknown actors and unknown people, it makes you believe it a bit more. So I kind of appreciate what he did there. I think that's on purpose. I think he was like, right, get me these sort of capable people, but that are quite unknown. And
Yeah, I think if you had a big movie star in this, it would have been like would have taken you out a little bit.
yeah,
Just see like Willem Dafoe trekking through the snow. Like,
yeah,
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 right, okay.
yeah. It'd probably be a better movie, but it would, it's. I appreciate and I see what he tried to do. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they were really going hard on trying to make this a believable documentary. Like, and I think the only way that that works is if you have like good acting. But when you say good acting, it's not about being really over dramatic. It's just about trying to be real. It's like trying to be somebody who is in this situation. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what most found footage films need to do. Otherwise, if they don't, that's the movie ruined almost because the idea of found footage is supposed to be believable. And,
Yeah.
like.
That's why I mentioned like the funny awkward pauses that they have between in their conversations, and like there's a lot of like back chat between like the cameramen and like whoever's on set. And although it's funny and a bit silly, it was kind of felt like real humans for a second. They
Yeah.
weren't like they weren't like these superficial characters.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they did well. Like like when they're doing interviews and stuff, and the camera's rolling. Like some of the, like especially like that guy who's like quite full of himself.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like they play for the camera, which is not a like. I feel like their characters change a little bit because they're trying to show off in front of the camera a bit, and like I think I didn't really have too many issues with the acting. I don't think it was bad, but I don't think it was good. And I think it kind of worked for the movie. And I'm talking about the first 2 acts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so obviously they're going through the snow. They're trying to find out what's going on. They've got a few little hints, and then the last sort of third act is when all the secrets start getting everything starts to unfold.
Yeah.
What did you guys make of that sort of act?
I was going to ask you guys what you thought of like the tension as they're like coming to where they think the location is, and like what did you guys think to kind of like the middle section up until they find the door?
I didn't mind it. Again, like I was not once was I watching the film at this point thinking like this is bad or anything like that. I was more like, okay, let's find out. I'm curious to what happened, So I was never like enthralled with the film, but I was wanting to know what happened. It's like sitting down watching a documentary. It's like, okay, like what's happened next? What's actually happened? What's the true story? So I think the character stuff I didn't really care about. Like there's like a weird little love triangle thing going on or whatever. And the guy and girl were sort of starting to like get on. And I didn't really care much about that. I just wanted to know what happened, like what was going on.
Yeah. What about you, Ollie?
Yeah, look, I know we've kind of discussed it. It's that they have their radiation tracker. They're trudging through the snow at night. Then all of a sudden they come across the door and they unbury and find this huge door, and then they keep it a secret from the rest of the group, who are probably 10, 20 meters away, like down the hill a little bit. And I was just like, they have no idea that you two have just got up, left the camp, spent probably a couple of hours, digging out this huge door. It was the concept for it was intriguing. They're talking about, oh, is it a UFO? Is it a Yeti? Is it government experiments? So for 2/3 of the movie, it slowly builds towards something that is very, very intriguing. Yeah, the acting is piss poor in places. And I completely agree with where you guys have said, it's with Rennie Harling, hiring actors and actresses who are not well known. Yeah, it's a good concept. It's just that the last 20 minutes of this movie is where it just completely falls down.
Yeah, I think for me personally, literally up until they find the door and don't bother telling any of their friends,
Yeah.
that was when I was like, I'm not enjoying this so much anymore. Or even when the avalanche happens and their friend literally dies, and
Yeah.
only one of them seems pretty bothered, and the rest are all like, "We gotta get moving."
Yeah.
Times are tough.
She's only a couple of meters down the mountain, but they don't even bother to look for it.
No.
Yeah, they don't even try, do they?
So yeah, shall we talk about the final act?
Yeah. Well, just before the final act, I quite liked that bit as well. Like, I didn't, when you see the two people walking towards them,
Yes.
and you're like, oh, they've got some help. They've got some help. And like, I didn't even think they were going to be bad. I was like, oh, there's those guys to come to help them. And it's not until one of the guys go, how did they get here so quick? And then I was like, oh shit! And then they just start shooting.
Yeah.
And they obviously kill that guy with that. That guy's like, give me the gun, and he starts trying to shoot him, and then he gets like a headshotted. And that's when they go inside the door.
You know when they get inside and they go to close the door, and the Russian guys are literally meters away, and they're taking forever to close this door, and the Russian guys don't shoot at them. They don't get in there. They didn't do anything.
That's something I noticed as well. Yeah, it just it was completely silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like when they got into the door, I was again quite interested in what's actually going on. But I just think as that bit went on, I was like, what the hell is going on? What are they talking about? They're talking about some nonsense, and then that's when we get the creatures that have been following them. And I think all three of us agree with these is the CGI on the actual monsters is horrendous.
Yeah. So up until that point, there's another snippet of one of them like crawling along the floor. There's a couple of little jumps, and then they come across these like documents that they seem to know everything about. And you see the creatures kind of like flicker in and out of shot. And I was still like, okay, this is weird. And then it isn't until that it just stands there and you get a good look at it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like an old PS2 game or something.
Yeah.
I do have one question for you guys. Do you think the CGI on the monsters is worse than or better than Scorpion King out of The Mummy Returns from 2001?
Better, but not by much.
I think it's about on par, but I think they hide it better because it's darker and they flicker.
Yeah, they kind of like.
Whereas in obviously you see the Scorpion King, they really focus on him, and it's like, oh my god.
I think in the Scorpion King it's really smoothed out.
2001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is 2013.
2013.
It's shocking. I just think like I would have just rathered. Just why don't they just sort of? They could have just been more clever about it. Like they could have used some practical effects and like instead of. I just think they could have went about it differently, where they didn't have to use this awful sort of CGI because it took like the thing is the film is trying so hard to be this realistic documentary, and it's like you're quite invested, and then when you watch the end, it completely takes you out
Yeah.
the style of the film.
Hmm.
The style of the film is supposed to be like this realistic documentary. It uses unknown actors. It's all of this, and then they throw this at you, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're watching a movie. Like when the avalanche comes and the girl, I know I've gone back a little bit, but when the girl like is in the avalanche and she flies down, just before she dies, the first girl to die,
Mm.
I'm like, these bits are done so poorly. It's destroyed the feeling of the film. The feeling that I had of this film was like that Blair Witch documentary. A bunch of random people are recording. You found these tapes
It's
on
like
the floor, and they're
tense
trying
build
to,
up.
yeah, and then you just have this awful and then you go, oh yes, I'm watching a film, and it's a shit film. like
It's
you know
that
what I mean?
last 20 minutes. It's the complete exposition dumps. All of a
Yeah,
sudden, both characters, the leading man, leading lady, know everything about what's
yeah,
actually going on. All of a sudden, just complete exposition dumps. You're like, how did you get to this point? You've literally just walked into a bunker, and then obviously we got onto the unbelievably crazy, say, twist that is time travel, teleportation.
yeah.
Yeah,
What
which
did you guys think about that?
that was a turn I didn't expect, and it was just funny that the characters were so seemingly okay with the idea of teleportation and like the possibility of maybe time traveling. They were just like, no, this is a thing. I've read about this. This is fine. It was-
Yeah, that guy knew so much, didn't
yeah,
he? Like the conspiracy guy. He was like, "Yep, yep, this is what this does," and I was a bit like, "Yeah, what's going on here?" And it was just, I think I think it could have been interesting if they did it well. I think like the fact that they brought in this out of the blue, this almost sci-fi twist that I was not expecting, but I think they just pulled it off.
see,
They pulled it off pretty poorly, and
I kind of did like obviously they go into that again, not great CGI teleportation wall, um, and they end up just outside the door again, but they're back in time, and the kids see these two extra bodies that no one knows about. Obviously,
yeah,
they're outside the door, and it refers to earlier with the older lady that was the child saying, "Oh, there was actually 9 bodies or something, not the
yeah.
7." I actually really like that bit. The fact
I
that
did, I did.
you saw the bunker back in like when it was being used, and there's all these people, and they're like, even they're confused. They're like, "What are these like people? These are gross. Like, what is going on?" And they're just kind of hiding it away in this bunker. I
Yeah,
was like, maybe if they stuck with more of that idea and less of the kind of crappy teleporting monster creature sci-fi parts, and stuck with the idea of like this like mysterious bunker that kind of has this history and it's a bit twisted, and the
yeah.
government are trying to hide it. I like that. It was just the the poorly done sci-fi elements that I was like, oh god.
I think they could have. Sorry, Combe.
No, I was just going to say, that they're going for this whole time loop thing, but the time loop is broken. It doesn't work. I had to kind of write it down and think about it. So they create this time loop in which the two main leads are turned into creatures and then sent back to 1959 in their creature form. They will eventually chase, in 2013, Holly and Jensen back to the portal room where they'll turn themselves into the creatures, repeating that time loop, that cycle. So, my question is, how would that cycle time loop even start? Why would they run, like the first ever time they've come across this situation, there's technically no monsters. What would be chasing them into the chamber with where they can jump through time?
I feel like my brain would explode if I think too much about that.
Wait,
I had
what
to
what
think about it because it just doesn't make sense. So
Ask the
you
question
know
again.
how so what the movie is essentially saying is that this portal has created a time loop in which the two main leads are turned into creatures and
Yeah.
sent back to 1959, in which they, in their creature form, will eventually chase 2013 Holly and Jensen back to the portal room, where they will turn themselves into creatures, repeating the cycle. But my question is, how would this cycle even start? Them walking into the portal and turning into creatures would have just been like the first event to happen in this loop. But the only reason that Holly and Jensen ended up locked in that portal cave is because the creatures are actually chasing them. So how did the time loop start?
I think
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say was maybe that they, back in when the first group was found, that maybe that they were also trying to find it, but that wouldn't make sense because when they're found outside the bunker, they're wearing modern clothes. Because
Exactly.
one of the kids one of the Russian soldiers is like, what the hell are these guys wearing? As they're taking them into the bunker. So yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's no logic to it. The time loop is broken. It doesn't work. There is no reason for Holly and Jensen to run into this time portal if they're not being like the first last time they do it. It's broken. It doesn't work. So once I kind of bit that down and got it in my head, that's when I was like, yeah, this movie is terrible. It's just the concept doesn't work.
Yeah, because she even mentions that she's always had this dream about the kind of this place and there being like a dark room. Like that's always kind of been in her conscience, even as a child. Yeah, I don't really think about it. Like, yeah, that bit, the whole repeating bit doesn't make
thing,
sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's broken.
Yeah, I agree, but I really, when it comes to any kind of time travel things, I try not to think too hard about it because, like, I just feel. But
Headaches.
I completely agree. Like, I just think they really they fumble their lines at the end, and it just kind of kills the movie. I do think that the one thing that I will say that's positive is I think they set up things well. Like you said, when they said about the two extra bodies that were never mentioned before,
Yeah.
for the old lady said, and I think that the footprints in the snow that set up the fact that they can sort of teleport and things like that. So there was one or two things that I think it does well, but yeah, I think overall, I think it wasn't. I think just the last 20 minutes or so just really it just killed whatever the movie had going, whatever it had going.
It had a bit of potential going into it before it kind of took a bit of a nosedive in the final third.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just looking, before we get on to finishing up, I was looking on IMDb at the pictures, and there's some like behind the scenes of the actual creatures, of the actors in makeup and stuff, and they don't look that bad. So why did they bother going over with these PlayStation graphics to make them look like video game characters when they looked like not bad? Like they should have just kept them as is. But
It's another case of the Thing remake that we've discussed before.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think well, I won't say actually. I'll wait until ratings, but yeah. Is anybody got anything else they want to sort of add before we do the ratings, or?
no, I think I've said everything. I've put here, I don't remember because it's been a week or so, but I put end credits song was a strange choice. I don't really remember what the song was, but I remember it being a bit off.
But didn't it have lyrics? And was it like, or
it was a poppy kind of.
Yeah, I kind of recall, but I don't remember now.
I'll see if I can get a snippet up. Obviously, I won't put too much because it's a song, but yeah.
No, I kind of recall some kind of weird ending song, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I've said all I've needed to say.
Okay. What about
The only thing
you?
on that is, it looked good in aspects like the setting of the mountains, the rural Russia. Um, it's crazy to think that in rural Russia, everyone speaks English. So if we ever visit rural Russia, we have no problems because everyone just seems to speak English.
Yeah,
Yeah,
considering this is
everybody.
a village in the mountains as well.
In the middle of nowhere, yeah, northern Russia, everyone just speaks English perfectly. Um, but yeah, no, that pretty much I've covered everything like you guys have said as well. So yeah, if you want us to go to ratings, we can go to ratings.
Do you want to start us off, Will?
Yeah, so I gave it 2.5 out of 5. Again, I think because maybe now that I've pondered on it, it might come down half. And those two, maybe 2.5 points are solely for the build up, the documentary style, up until the deaths, basically the deaths of the characters. That I was like, yeah. Yeah, I think we've said everything that we need to say about the film. Poor final act, good snowy moments, not too bad for a found footage film, but just yeah, a piss poor final act that didn't seem to match the rest of the film.
Yeah. Ollie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I'm going to rate it 2 stars. There's some real decent potential. The first 2/3 of this film are mysterious, and you're left wanting to know what's going on. You know, it's very slow to build tension and mystery, which was really good. But then that last 15 minutes, it runs full pace to this conclusion and twist ending that
I think I kind of agree. I think with myself, I gave it 2.5 stars originally, but I'm trying really hard not to drop a whole star. So I think I'm just going to go to 2 stars.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um,
all at 2 stars.
I because I'm getting the more I think about it, it's annoying me, and that's why I'm half tempted to go with 1.5. But I'm going to stick with 2 for now. But when you build up a film like it's supposed to do, like it had, what it was doing, like that, all of that is pointless when you watch the last 20 minutes for me, and I think it just kills the whole film. But I'm going to stick with 2 stars for now. But I feel like I think the more I've thought about it, yeah, I quite disliked it, and I think if I watched it again with the future knowledge, I think it would go down even more.
Yeah, I think it was just a
Absolutely.
bit of a almost like a disappointment. You
Yeah,
spend so long with this build up of actual documentary style found footage, and for it to just kind of be thrown away for a not well thought out sci-fi ending that didn't pay off at all. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. I think we've run just over the hour and a half mark, so I think it's probably time to call it there. Um, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, the snow episode. Hope you guys enjoyed watching the movies as well. Most of them, some of them.
Yeah, most of them, definitely.
um, definitely one of them. But yes, with that, I think we will end it there. Unless anyone has anything else.
No, just let us
No?
know if you've seen any of these films and what your opinions
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. Do we want to give away the next episode? I think we seem to be pretty. I think we know what we're doing, don't we? Or
Yeah.
do you guys want to hold off?
Yeah, I think so. No, we can tell, can't we?
Okay. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
treat
Okay.
for
So
the people that have listened all the way through.
yeah. Yeah. So you guys that have lasted, the next episode is going to be films where under siege or siege-based movies is what we've named it, haven't we? So
Yeah, not Under Siege. We're not doing Steven Seagal.
no,
Not yet.
we're not doing under siege. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But yeah, no. So I won't say the movies just in case we do decide to change the movies, but that's the theme. If you guys do like have any suggestions of any themes that you want to see, pop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that jazz. If you are around, I do live stream on Twitch, so come and join. And I play a lot of horror games and stuff. Will sometimes streams, but not all the time. But that's at Deadpan Will, isn't it, Will?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should be making some YouTube videos soon, so we'll
good,
see.
good. Yeah, so keep an eye out on that. We'll keep you guys posted on whatever we end up doing. Ollie, you got any plans on YouTube streaming?
Oh no, I'm waiting for this channel to get big, Shin,
Okay.
and live off royalties that way.
No problem. All right then, guys. Thank you
Sure will
very
happen.
much. Thanks everyone for listening, and cheers, guys, once again
Cheers,
for a good podcast.
guys.
And see you on the next one.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.